Hey everybody, welcome back to The Addicted Bookworm. I am Hermione. I'm a bookworm who's addicted to books. Alright, so that's my new intro. And yes, I had a subscriber that said that he really did like the new channel name, and I do appreciate that a lot. I just thought it fit more with who I was as being utterly addicted to books. So that's how I became the Addicted Bookworm. As I said, it just fits my personality a lot better. So in today's video, or tonight's video, or early morning video, I'm going to be talking about some of the issues that people have with Rebecca Yarnos's Fourth Wing series. And I will be among them that says I do have an issue with the series. And these are the issues that pop up when authors don't care about explaining things. And I know a lot of people like my videos where I talk about dragons or talk about this or talk about that. But I'm going to kind of talk about what she does and what I do, because we're both writing literally the same thing, which is dragon riders, but mine is an urban fantasy. Hers is entirely fantasy or romantasy. So first of all, let's talk about the fucking. And I'm just, I don't worry about monetization. I'm not monetized. Let's talk about the sex. Okay. So in Rebecca Yarnos's world, Violet and her boyfriend, they have sex several times in the book. My book, there is none of that. So it is a book that does not have smut, spice, or steamy scenes. And it goes to the core of how a dragon rider does what he or she does. To be able to ride a dragon requires sacrifice, and one of the things that they sacrifice is their ability to have children or to father children. My world, magic has a penalty. That's why a lot of people that do magic in my world don't really do magic that often, or they may do it they may do it like when they have no choice in the matter, because there is going to be some kind of price that has to be paid. Now, I don't really plan on to go into the price other people pay for doing magic, but definitely I feel like as an author I need to explain that their sexuality and their sex drive is what they give up to become a dragon rider. Now, the thing about it is my main character of Amber does not know this. It's only when she's going through training is she told that you will not have any kind of sex drive or desire to have children or desire to be with anyone, because dragons are this very sturdy, strong, focused creature, and for riders to be like their dragons, they cannot have that kind of emotional ability or ability to be sexual or anything like that. So that's how I get out of writing smut in the book. That's just, I was like, I don't want to write smut in a fantasy book, so I'm going to come up with this idea of that's what they give up. Another thing that I noticed in all of Rebecca Yarnos's Fourth Wing books is the fact that dragons do not enforce or do not force their will, or like simple as like they don't state, this is what I know is going to work and we're going to do it the way I want you to do it, why I want you to do it. My dragon, so the dragon that bonds with Amber is named Sekhmet. And the reason I named the dragon Sekhmet is because Amber has always wanted to be this warrior and this strong person. And so, because her dragon is strong, she named her Sekhmet. Because there actually is a dragon called Odin, who is ridden by one of the characters named William. And William is the dragon rider for the dragon Odin. And the reason that he named his dragon Odin is because Odin is a strong warrior name, just like Sekhmet is a strong warrior name for a dragon. So there are riders that name their dragons, weird names, but I wanted a name that was ferocious, that represented power, and represented just curiosity and all that. So that was where I got the name from. So in this one, dragons may be bound to their riders, but they're not 100% loyal to their riders. If they sense that a rider has turned bad or wants the dragon to do something that's against their moral ethics, they will kill their rider without any kind of magical backlash. So in Fourth Wing, you have that magical backlash that happens when a rider dies. In this one, there is none at all, because there is an entirely different kind of moral code, and a dragon's magic is run by that particular moral code. Unlike in Fourth Wing, that killed more than half of their cadets, in my book, you're not going to have that. Now, yeah, you're going to have people that are going to die during, these battles and stuff, but as far as cadets are concerned, no one dies in basic training. No one. Because what is the point of fighting a war where you kill off half of your cadets? I don't understand that. I just don't understand why that's even a thing. I just don't. Also, the reasoning behind the war is not trade. It is just this magical country appears out of nowhere. I will be explaining that at some point in the books, in the future books. But they are not only are they terrified of us and everyone else because they're just a little country, but they take that terror and their fear and they lash out. So it's more of, I'm afraid of you, and this is how I'm going to act because I'm terrified that you're going to destroy me. Maybe also it's our history that doesn't help us. I don't, that might be it. Just might be it. I really am working on the full reasoning behind the war that's going on. And the thing about it is that dragon riders are needed because these enemies can appear just out of nowhere, and they can attack very effectively. So that's another thing. So it's not a trade war. It's not a war about people being owned by other people or none of that type. It's just simple fear. Let's just be very simplistic. It's fear. They're afraid of us, so they lash out at that. I like my reasoning for wars to mean something, to make some kind of sense instead of being about trade and all and other stuff. I think it's like the Stormlight Archives does the same thing about trade. I think they do the same thing. I'm not exactly sure. So yeah. So another thing that I definitely put into it is Amber's lack of superiority. Now this is something that I experience in real life Women that believe they're superior to everyone else because they're women. And I have seen it myself. I know it exists, so don't write in the comment section that women don't think they're superior to men. There are women out there that actually believe that they're superior to men, they're superior to other women, they're superior to everyone else, and they don't have to follow any kind of rules. And you literally have a. I have this one character. She's not been written in yet, but it's based on a girl that my mother kind of went to basic training with. So my mother, God rest her soul, she went to the Air Force during the Vietnam War. Or it might have been before the Vietnam, a little before the Vietnam War. Because she wanted to get away from her parents. Her parents were very, very controlling and all that type of stuff. My grandfather was a rapist, so yeah. He was a rapist. He was a rapist. And so there was a girl that was in there, and apparently she came from military family. Definitely, it's like her father served in World War II. Because you understand is at the time the Vietnam War happened, you had people going in. They were definitely the children of like World War II veterans. So there was a lot of World War II veterans at the time the Vietnam War happened. And so basically what happens was she was very, very determined to show girls that she was better than they were because of who her father was. And there was a lot of people in the military that could say, no, you might think you're special, but you're not, because my parents also served in the Second World War. So, so my mother kept on telling her, you need to cut it out, and she wouldn't listen, and she was sent away. I wanted to have a character that was annoying, and you just want dead. You just want dead. Literally. So that's the character that I am producing, is this one character based on the girl that my mother encountered during basic training. Another thing that I also do with the dragons is I make it clear that if you are weak, or you lack any kind of moral compass, or you just are want glory, you're never going to be a dragon rider at all. Also, another thing about this world, because it is an urban fantasy book series, you have people that are forced to go into the military, and they are given potions, and their spells are put on them so they don't have seizures, they don't have an asthmatic attack, and all that type of stuff. And so they go in. It doesn't matter if they have cerebral palsy, doesn't matter if they have seizures. There's always a spell or ritual that can be done to cure them of that particular condition. So here's another. So I know what people are going to ask me: are there gay people in the military? Yes, they are. There are people that are gay in the military. However, half of them end up dead. Half of them end up dead because they're cocky. And I'm not saying that all gay people are cocky. They're not. I've known several people that are gay that are not cocky. I know one who is, and he's Chicken Little. I do not mean, but he is as thin as a beanpole. and he kind of scares me a little bit. But he's a great guy. He's a great guy. But yeah, they generally end up dead because they will either do dumb stuff, they will get drunk and do dumb stuff, or they will mess with something bigger than they are, which isn't classified as dumb stuff, and they will do dumb stuff. And they'll end up in the digestive tract of a dragon. So, not all of them end up in the digestive tract of a dragon, or they don't end up doing something stupid like, I don't know, climbing into the torpedo tube, which is what one character does in the book, and they end up somewhere else. Yeah, don't ever drink and be in the military. Don't ever do that. It's just not good. Another thing that we do have a character who is gay in Among the Dragon Riders, and she's actually in the Florida base with the Dragon Riders. And here's the interesting thing. What makes my book make a lot more sense than Rebecca Yarnos' book is the bases that the Dragon Riders are at are entirely made of stone. It is essentially a castle-like structure. And the reason that I'm designing the base that she's going to be at like that is because you're dealing with dragons that may decide to shoot off fire at any time. You've got wild dragons that can easily attack anywhere. And here it goes all the way to another thing that is important. What about, because as this is urban fantasy, what about communities that that don't have like stone protecting them? Well, every house is actually equipped with what we would call a bomb shelter. This is actually a place where you go to just in case there is a sighting of one. So literally, it doesn't matter if you live in a bad part of town or you live in an influential part of town or anything like that. The moment the siren goes off, they all head underground. If their homes burn down, the weird thing is, the moment they burn down, they get rebuilt. It's like, it's part of, it's weird that I'm going to write that, because it's like, oh my lord. So what they do is just basically just like their house burns down and then it automatically builds back up. Yeah, actually that's exactly what happens. And the weird part is that if you live in a house that is like falling apart or like whatever, when it rebuilds, it's brand new. So everyone literally lives in brand new homes, but they all have to go underground because of these creatures. And they're like horses. You know, you got horses that are tame, you got horses that are wild. You got dragons that are bound to riders, and every once in a while the rider will become a meal. And then you got wild dragons who want to pluck a rider off the back and make him a meal. But yeah, schools have it, churches have it, restaurants have it. They're all enchanted and charmed and designed to rebuild, electronics and all, after it gets burnt down. And this is how I get around it. And it was just an idea that popped up in my mind last night. It's like, wow, that'd be really cool if we had houses that, yes, they burned down, but then they magically rebuild. And I just thought that was an interesting concept and everything. But, cause like I said, it's urban fantasy, You are working within the confines of the real world, so you have to kind of create things that would not work in either genre. But the bases are made of stone. The bases are made of stone because of what they have, because of what can attack them, and all that. Another thing is these bases are also warded to keep people out that are not allowed to be there. So if anybody wants to know, do I have gay people in my story? Yes, I do. I am not doing it because of so-called political correctness or wokeness or whatever. This is urban fantasy. This is real world with a magical twist to it. And there are places that you can go and you can shop and you can get stuff, and there's Subways and Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks and all that type of stuff. And it's important to have that realism in your book. It is highly important to have that realism in your book. Also, another thing about my dragons, and I've noticed this in Rebecca Yarnos' work, and I really am glad to know that I'm not the only one who noticed this. But when Violet's dragon I think, what is it? Makes a statement, Violet always has, like, I don't know how you would, like, say it, but it just seems like to me that either how she wrote the whole thing about dragon behavior and dragon loyalty and all this stuff just absolutely makes no sense. The dragons that I have in my book, dragons are not just loyal to themselves, but they sure as heck are not loyal to their riders. And what I mean by that is, a rider has to earn the loyalty of the dragon that they're bounded to. So being bound to a dragon just means that you have access to their magic that fuels your own magic. So you have magic, and you can do things like transform into an animal, or read people's minds, or move things with your mind. Amber has the ability to control fire, but she is a lot more effective in it when she is with her dragon. I hate doing this, guys, I really am. The moment, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but the moment that a dragon senses that you're not loyal anymore, you will get eaten. Point blank. And there is, if I mentioned this before, I'm sorry, there is no magical backlash from it. They eat you, and the next day, your dragon has a new rider. So I definitely wanted to make that very clear in the book, that yes, dragons are loyal to their own kind, but they're not loyal to riders that have not earned that loyalty. If you're a rider and you're or like you get chosen by a dragon, you know, you're able to hatch a dragon egg, if they sense that you're cocky, and they can sense it from the moment they hatch, they will turn their back on you. So your magic allows them to hatch, but That's only half of it. That's only half of it. So my world is very complex, and I really am going to be working really hard to smooth those bumps and to produce a book that people are going to enjoy. But yeah, so I mean, as William tells her, that it is a person's magic that hatches a dragon from their egg. However, the dragon can turn its back or reject the person who went and hatched it. So just because you hatch a dragon doesn't mean you're going to become a writer. You have to have loyalty. You have to have a good heart. You have to have a good moral code. You got to have the things that dragons themselves praise and put on a pedestal. If you force a dragon, if you grab a dragon after it's turned its back on you, it's going to show you why you don't do it. Even as a little bitty, teeny tiny little thing, they have, and this is what makes the dragons in my world different from the dragons in Rebecca Yarnos' world. My dragons have the ability to turn on and off one of their most defensive abilities. And I am not going to tell you what it is because I don't want to spoil it. But they have it from birth. And if you come in contact with it, you will die. They can turn it off, they can turn it on. They don't have it on all the time. But yeah. So, as I said, my world doesn't have dragons and dick. It has dragons, magic, characters, and all that type of stuff. Characters that I hope people are going to like, even the cocky ones. In a world that's very much like our own, that has very similar walls, very similar rules, and all that type of stuff. I believe that fantasy should be more than dragons and dick. That's what I really think. I think that if you make it just that, if you don't think things through when you write your manuscript, or you have editors that don't think things through, you're going to have a book series that agitates the hell out of its readers. And yes, there were long lines of people that wanted to get Onyx Storm. But then when it came out and people kind of read it, they're like, this does not make any sense. I just read this. And the thing about it is that what I do basically is I write notes down. Anytime I create something new, I write it down. You know, it's like what I do is I copy and paste it on a paper. And then what happens is when I'm done with the book, and I have edited it and did proofreading and all that type of stuff, I go and say, okay, these are the things that I don't want to repeat in the second book. And I'm going to stick with that because I don't want people to think that I'm repetitive and everything. Because I do kind of get looked at by some people for being repetitive. It's just how my brain is, and I blame Monsanto for that. I really do. But I think that Rebecca Yarnos might be a good romance author, but she's not a good romantasy author. She is not a good romantasy author. And people are going to be like, but I like Rebecca Yarnos. Well, Sarah J. Maas is better at fantasy than Rebecca Yarnos. I heard that she she read like Tolkien and these other authors, and she immersed herself in the types of stories that she liked, which is great. Um, but in my world, you've got witches, you've got elves, you've got gnomes, you've got dragons, wild and tamed. You got unicorns, you got all these different kinds of creatures. And they're people that Amber interacts during the course of the 7 books. And another thing is, there is also bigotry in the book. There is bigotry, of course, against people that happen to be gay, but the biggest bigotry of all is against the writers. There are religious nuts that literally believe that dragon riders have sold their soul to the devil. And you will see that in the book. You will see that in the book, big time. But yeah, I am not going to say, oh, it has enemies to lovers, and like, no, it doesn't. It has dragons, more dragons, elves, how a girl navigates the world without any kind of sexual desire. How do you do that? How do you navigate a world in which you have been totally cut off from that particular emotional or ability, and everywhere around you you have sexy ads and you have all that type of stuff, and you can no longer feel those kinds of things, all because you are fighting a war with a country that you didn't know existed. And it's kind of interesting to have characters that are in a sense they give up something. They sacrifice something for their country, and how people kind of look down upon them, especially if they're like religious nuts or whatever. And how there's people that think, I don't need the writers and all that type of stuff. And it's going to be interesting. As I said, I started this book a couple weeks ago. I try to get a little bit done a day, but with me, it's like, But my goal is to release the book sometime next year, because I know a lot of people are going to be in the, I don't have Rebecca Yarros right now, even though she is not a great author. She is not a great author, and all that. I have seen a lot of indie authors that are kind of good, kind of bad, but also really great. So anyways, so I'm going to end it here, and I will be coming back later on today to do that Kindle reading vlog, episode number 5, and I will see you then. Bye.